Hey everyone, this is Forrest Price with your Monday Moments. And yeah, there's no music in the background. I actually recorded 3 songs. Well, actually, it was like 3.5, but I didn't like any of them. So I was right about the punch, and I was like, you know what? I don't even want to listen to it again. So, sorry, you might have liked them. I didn't. It was the reason why I picked those songs anyway, based on the topic. But I guess I'm being shrewd right now. But I didn't want to hear it again. So, there we go. All right. Remember I said we're going to start off with news of the week before we get into the topic. So, it's probably the last time I'll mention it. I did the final drop-off this Sunday for the shoe drive. My church probably generated a good 400 to 500 pairs of shoes. It was a great turnout. I was at a meeting last Saturday where I heard reports from other churches, and some outdid us. I mean, they were getting 600-700. Church out in San Diego, I think, got like 800 shoes. So we did a great job. Thank everyone who came out and supported and gave your shoes. Next shout out, this coming Wednesday and Thursday will be revival at my church, Ward AME Church, 1177 West 25th Street. On Wednesday night, 7 p.m., it will be the Reverend Terry Brown from Liberty Baptist Church. And on this coming Thursday, it'll be the Reverend Terrence Phillips from Prosperity Missionary Baptist Church, 7 p.m. Ward AME Church. And the last shout out is to myself. This Saturday will be my 49th birthday. Yes, I am that old. Okay, whatever. I have a full day doing everything but celebrating my birthday on that day. But if you catch me, you catch me. If you don't, just know I'll probably poop by the end of the day and from doing all the other stuff that has nothing to do with my birthday. So, all right, to our topic for today. You know, in the past, I've done a lot of series. Most of them were religious. We did the 10 Commandments series, then we did the 7 Deadly Sins, and I think we did a couple of non-religious ones. So now I'm on another one because I haven't done one in a while. So about 2 weeks ago, I heard a guy from Santa Barbara talk about different generations. I mean, he broke it down, and I immediately knew I wanted to do that too. But I was like, there's no way I can talk about all of them in one sitting. So I was like, all right, well, even the day I decided, you know what, I'm going to break them all up, just do one, maybe every 3 weeks I'll do another one. So there's basically 5 generations right now. You have Generation Z. That's basically age range from 14 to 23. Then you have the Millennials, that their age range is between 24 and 38. Then you have Generation X, which is roughly from age 39 to 52. You have the Baby Boomers, which are basically from 53 to 72. And 73 and up, we will call them the Traditionalist. So today, we are going to talk about Generation Z, our very young people. And if I'm going to do a comparison, I can only really compare them with the group ahead of them, which will be the Millennials. Now, mind you, I'm not picking sides. I'm not saying something is right or wrong. I'm just going by what I'm reading, surveys, and stuff. So I'm going to keep that to myself because I think every generation should support the other generations, because the generation that was ahead of us didn't like what we were doing. So we can't complain about what other people are doing because we got the same complaints basically on us. And every generation is different. Every environment is different. Everything was different. So you can't compare them. You can't complain. All right. Generation Z, which has a lot of different names. They don't know what to call themselves, or other people call them all kind of stuff. So here's some of the names they are being called. The Homeland Generation. The Post-Millennial Generation. just plainly the I generation, or just the iGeners. Ooh. The plurist, or the generation of plurals, or just plurals. Plurals? Really? Plurals? Okay. The founders. I don't get that one. The Delta generations, or just the Deltas, which I think would get confused with us fraternity or sorority. Okay. Or just the internet generation, which is actually the one I think they should be called, instead of just Generation Z. But just to make things simple, most people call them Generation Z, and that's what I will call them for this video. Okay. Most Generation Z have been using the internet since birth. So they don't know of a world without the internet. And they are generally comfortable with technology and interacting on social media. Probably the best fit, where all the other generations have to conform to it and have to come around to it, which I think most of us are at least trying to. Again, the age range is 14 to 23-year-olds, which make up about 25% of the U.S. population, which makes them a larger group of people than the baby boomers and the millennials. That's how huge this section of America is right now. 54% of them are Caucasian, 24% are Hispanic, 14% are Black, 4% are Asian, and they classify about 4% as others, which could mean, I guess, anything. They've done a lot of surveys on them because they want to compare one generation to the other, I guess. But I think it's worthy to do because it's easier to understand. So their biggest concern is student debt. And they're worried about being able to afford a college education at all, which is sad. The biggest impact for this group has been 9/11, even though most were not even born when 9/11 happened, or they were so young, there's no way they can recollect it, or the Great Recession. So they grew up in this time. So they are they basically never known a world where this country was not fighting terrorism or not being in a war. So their whole life has been around that. They have no knowledge of that not happening. Like most of us, we know what it was before we even heard the term terrorism or what a terrorist act was. So they're very conscious about security based on that. And they're very money savvy because a lot of their families had to grow up in a financial stressful society. So they grew up in that financially stressful society. So this is going to be a theme throughout about Generation Z. They are a lot more conservative. Yes, they are. Which will probably term another because they are financially conservative and I would say they're not socially conservative, but their daily life is more conservative. They see themselves as being very loyal, compassionate, thoughtful, open-minded, responsible, and determined. And they view their counterparts, which are the millennials, as something that they're not. They view the millennials as being very competitive, spontaneous, adventuresome, and curious of all things they do not see in themselves. So I think a lot of people try and group this group as being millennials, and they are not. They do not have the same characteristics. And this is something that might also surprise you. Generation Z is the biggest group of churchgoers for that same age range. About 41% are churchgoers, or some former churchgoers, or online church watchers, compared to only 18% at the same age range as the millennials, only 21% of the same age range for the Generation X, which I'm a part of, and 26% of the baby boomers. We don't have the numbers for the traditionalists. I assume it's a lot higher, but they are by far out going to church at that age range compared to the 3 generations ahead of them. They are more risk adverse. They're not about taking risks. Not like the millennials did. This survey says that only 66% have even tried alcohol compared to the 82% of the millennials at the same age rate. Only 8% said that they do not wear a seatbelt or rarely use it, compared to the 26% of the millennials at that same age who did it. As far as teen pregnancy, the rates are 40% lower for Generation Z. As far as substance abuse, 38% lower. And as far as on-time high school graduation rates, it is 28% lower than the millennials. So they are very much more risk adverse. They're not about taking risks. They're being careful. They are actually thinking about their future. Again, that's not a knock on the millennials. This is just a generation, and they actually grew up differently than how the millennials grew up. They grew up solely in a technological world. They spend about a good 3 hours per day using their computers for something other than schoolwork, compared to just the 22% from the millennials. Speed is a factor as far as their technology. They prefer Twitter and Instagram over Facebook. They believe